Hey legends, and welcome back to the Sim Racing channel where we're always pushing ourselves. Today was a bit of a momentous day for me. Ever since the track's release, I've been trying to push the GT3 cars in rFactor 2 to give me a 6:35 time on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Thus far, the closest I'd ever gotten was 6:37 with both the McLaren 720S and Porsche 911. Since I hadn't sat down and sim raced properly in several days, I thought to take the morning out to try the new Ferrari 488 GTE on the Nordschleife. In the past, my GTE times have generally been worse than the GT3s for whatever reason. Well, the very first timed lap netted me a 6:31, smashing all of my production car attempts on this track to date. So, I had some breakfast, dunked some coffee, and decided to get stuck into it for an hour or two to see what I could really get out of this car and track. The penultimate lap of the morning resulted in a 6:26.6, beating my best GT3 attempt by over 10 seconds. We'll take a look at the lap in a second and talk through how it all came together. While this won't specifically be a Nordschleife driving tutorial, I will link one of those for you right at the end of this video, so if you're interested in learning more about driving this amazing track, make sure to stick around until the end. In the meantime, be sure to smash the sub if you haven't already in order to stay up to date with future sim racing content. Without further ado, let's get into the lap. Okay, coming down towards Tiergarten, you're always trying to steel yourself for the upcoming hot lap. The thing about the Nürburgring Nordschleife is that when you're hot lapping it, you've basically got to be in the zone for about 6 to 7 minutes, depending on what you're driving, maybe less, maybe more, as opposed to most other tracks, such as if you're doing Brands Hatch or Oulton Park or historic Adelaide, it's basically like just over a minute, so you only really need a short burst of concentration. This track is something else entirely. So you can see on T1 there that I shot slightly wide. I've already lost close to 2/10. But my resolve is still there. I've decided to go ahead and try and make the most of it all the same. So that alone should go to show you that you can actually get a slightly better lap than what I've managed to get thus far. So on Sector 1, already catching up, making up some time here through the slalom section. Making sure to brake nice and early here. The trick is to kind of get through that without mounting the curb, but without actually shooting out too wide. You're trying to maximize the exit speed down the straight. Coming up to Flugplatz now. Very interesting in this car. Literally just use the brake, just a dab to turn in, then back on the power straight away. You're trying to get on the power as soon as possible. Maximize that exit speed. Maximize the momentum and just, yeah, we're 2/10 ahead already. Coming down here, completely flat out in this car, trying to maximize the line so you don't shoot out wide. Nice and easy, hard on the brakes. Coming into the turn, trying to get on the power as soon as possible without shooting out wide, without spinning. And going flat, going into the foxhole. With the amount that I took off the rear wing, it's a little dangerous through here. So on the brakes, turn in, shift down, then down 2 gears. Down to second. Try and finesse this section. It's basically a bit of a throttle dance. I think it went fairly well, as you can see, half a second gain thus far. Section here is high risk and reward. Just kind of bank in with the brake, stay in 5th, hard on the brakes, down to second. Trying to stay close to the curbs, maximize the geometry of the track. Down to second through here, try and keep it tight on the power as early as possible. You can actually go flat out through this coming section, but I lift a little bit on the inside just to not have the car get too wild and unruly on me. So miss, hit, miss right there. Coming in hard, hard on the brakes, braking while turning, trying really hard not to lock because this car doesn't have ABS. You can have a really bad time through there. So lost about a 10th through there. I'm not really sure how. Must have had a really good line on the lap before. Hard on the brakes, down to second, maximize the track geometry again. Just got to watch out on the exit here. On the outside, there's a bit of a dip in the track surface. It's very easy to spin out. Luckily, we have a little bit of traction control going on. So about 6/10ths up so far. Going into section 2 here. So as you can see, I kind of sacrificed a bit of entry speed into that corner by shooting out wide and making sure that the exit speed was quite good. So we're still gaining on the last lap. Still gaining and gaining. We're going to gain about close to about 7/10 all up at this point. This car has astounding grip, but as with all GTEs, it can come at a cost because you don't have ABS. You have to really know where the limit of the car is. A bit on the grass there, getting quite ambitious with my line. So I shot out wide, but fortunately this is one of the more forgiving corners of the game, or of the track rather. This applies to real life just as much. Braking hard for the carousel, going down to first gear, and I spent a little bit too long jiggling around with the car in there, lost about 1/10 in the carousel. Carousel is very much a make or break section. You can go all out there, you can probably gain about 2/10, but the risk is you can can the entire lap if you fly out. So coming into Sector 3 here, the most exciting and arguably difficult section of the track. Trying to maximize as much speed as I can. As you can see, already gaining 7/10 or more, 8. Going a lot better than it did last time. Staying tight through there, all in 4th gear, hard on the brakes, down to 3rd. Keep it tight, try not to spin out. So we're really on the limit at this point. Car's a tendency to shoot out wide on that corner. I'm not entirely sure why yet. I don't know if it's a factor of the setup or its natural tendency. So we're almost a second up at this point on the prior lap. I'm starting to get kind of both nervous and excited at this point, wondering if I'll bin the lap or whether I'll actually complete what's likely to be the quickest lap I've ever done of the Nordschleife. A lot of high risk reward sections coming up here. It's all flat in this car, completely flat down this downhill slalom. You're basically dealing with millimeters, maybe centimeters. If you touch any of those inside curbs, you're pretty much done. Keeping it very tight on the inside and outside curbs. Not much margin for error here. Mini carousel, shot out a little bit wide. I came in a bit too hot there. And I'm going to make sure we get this right. Exit speed out of this is everything onto the final straight. Alright, so nice and early on the power. Not too much lighting up the rear wheels, and really nice exit speed. As you can see, we're gaining time on our last lap already. So again, this is a chance for you to reflect on, review what you've done, kind of steel yourself for the coming collection of corners in Tiergarten. The section coming up, the amount of deceleration and finesse and turning while decelerating is absolutely mind-blowing. This is even more terrifying in person. You sort of can't believe what the car is able to do. It's all flat throughout here. It's only once you line up that final braking section, so coming up here and hard on the brakes while turning at the same time, down to 2nd. If you lock the brakes there, you're pretty much done. And down to 1st, coming back around, and 626.6. The big 626.615. So I'm thinking, all things being said, with a little bit of extra setup work, probably on the dampers more than anything, and a little bit of work on refining my lines and picking up on some of those sectors where I dropped the ball a little bit, I'm thinking that the end potential of this is somewhere in the 625s for me. I may try for it another day when I feel a little bit more refreshed, but for the time being, I'm absolutely stoked with this. It's 11 seconds quicker than my quickest GT3 lap thus far. This car is probably a little bit OP at the moment. I think there's a balance of performance coming for the GTEs. If you guys give this track and car a shot, let me know how you go in the comments down below. I'm curious if you guys are smashing my times, if you're struggling to get up here. Let me know how it's all going for you. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. This is a bit of a, I suppose, self-indulgent one, but I feel somewhat proud of myself. This has been a long time in the making. I've spent a long time learning this track, and I've had such a hard time breaking that 635 barrier. And even though I haven't beaten it on the GT3s quite yet, I feel happy to have cracked the 620 mark with the GTEs anyway. So be sure to hit that sub, keep up to date with all future sim racing content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.